Hello, and welcome to In the Studio with Dole Designs. Today we are going to be wire wrapping a cabochon pendant. And the supplies we're going to be using today are a ruler, baling pliers, graduated baling pliers, and if you don't have those, the round nose chain nose pliers will be fine. Chain nose pliers, wire strippers, flush cutters, and square nose pliers. The other materials we're going to be using today include some type of sandpaper, fine sandpaper. This is a vintage relieving block. Our cabochon, which for us, our cabochon, the total diameter we've pre-measured is about 4 inches. And this does have a girdle on the side for the wire to lay. This cabochon is by Liz Burford, and I'll post her link up so you can see some of her other cabochons as well. We are using 4 pre-cut pieces that we cut of 12-inch, 20 gauge, half hard square wire. Reason I cut 12 inches was because, like I mentioned before, our circumference of our cabochon we pre-measured is about 4 inches, and I like leaving 4 inches on either side for our bail and any decorative accents we would like to do. We're going to be attaching our wires around the cabochon to make our pendant with 2 20 gauge half round, half hard wires and 2 8-inch half round, half hard 20 gauge wires. That is a mouthful. So I will probably be referring to them from here forward as our 20 gauge square and our 20 gauge half round. So we're going to take our 20 gauge square wires. We marked our center point already here. So this is a teardrop, so we're going to be curving around the bottom. Our center point is right here. And then I took the center point and measured another 1/4 inch on either side. So this is the portion we're going to connect to at the bottom and wrap our wires around. So basically take the whole width of your cabochon at the bottom and then find your center point. Ours happened to be right here. It was pretty easy. It's about 1 inch, so it's at about a 1/2 inch on either side total. So we're going to go ahead and take our 20 gauge half round wire and always look at this. It's kind of hard to tell which side is the rounded part, and it's usually a little bit shinier. We find that on the 20 gauge square it lays on the cabochon better, so you can use round, but if you have the square available, at least use it on the side. We use it on the whole cabochon. We're using the half round here to wrap with because the wire does lay much better and keeps those secure much nicer. Now we're starting from this inner part right here, but when we go to clip our wire, we're going to be clipping it right in the middle on the inside so it cannot be seen, but this gives us a tail to hold on to for right now. We're starting right there at our first line and just continue around. Now as you continue around, your first one here, it may not be perfect, but we can go back and straighten that up a little bit later. We're wanting to get a start here, but that one can be fixed once we get that started and around, and I'll do it at the finishing point if needed. The biggest thing is lining your wire up as you go as closely as possible and not letting your square wires here overlap. They are going to want to overlap as you're putting tension in this wrap around. So we'll start wrapping around here, keeping those flat as we go. And that's why we have the wire strippers. If we need to mash that down at any point, we can to keep those from overlapping. We'll look at where we are on our points here. See where my Sharpie is there at the beginning. Whoops. So first, until you mash it down, you can slide it around. Once you mash that down, it's pretty well in there. So we've got about halfway. We'll continue on here. again, note that the wires are very close together. We're lining those up. We're not letting the other wires overlap. And we'll do about one more, and it looks like we're about finished there. Yes. Okay. Once you have done that, let's go ahead and secure them in place by using the wire strippers and mashing that down. Do it very carefully. You don't do it too much at one time or at one point. You can kind of do it evenly up and down. Now this first one here, I'll line up very closely. And then in the middle point, I'm going to use my fingernails to mark that. And we're going to lift that up almost dead center in order to clip that so it will not be seen then from the outside of the cabochon. So go ahead and cut that. And I'm going to cut a little bit more. Like I said, I want that pretty much right in the center. And then go ahead and mash that down. And do the same on the other side. You don't have to use your fingernail. You can use a tool to bring that up as well. So go in here like this and bring that up there like that. I'll put the rest of that half round wire over there. And if you notice, I had a little bit extra there. I always like to have too much. You can always add, you can always take wire off, but you can't add it to it. So I always find if I have a little bit extra, if I need to do anything else, I can. And then any leftovers I can save for another project. So there we go. We have the bottom secure, so you have all 4 of your wires begun and secured. So now we're going to go ahead and line that up and start rotating that around our cabochon. Bring up both sides. You take it off and shape it with your fingers. The warmer it gets with your hands, the more pliable it is. Again, this is half hard. We find it stays in place a little bit easier since you don't work hard in the wire a lot, but you can use dead soft if this is a little hard on your hands. We're at the point it doesn't matter which one is the top or bottom quite yet. So just work with it until you get that shaped around the way you want it. So all we're looking for here is just a good start. There we go. Now we're going to actually use our tools to help us out a little bit here. So I had this, these square pliers here, square nose pliers. So I'm going to go in here and again have those help us out a little bit. And on this very front wire, you can pull that up to separate it from the rest. Again, you're always wanting to keep your wires aligned. I'm going to go in here at the bottom and go ahead and grab a hold of that right at the start of our wrap and just go up like that. And you can also go ahead and take your wire and just move it upward a little bit. We're going to do the same on the other side. Again, just go in at that point right next to your wrap, just grabbing that first wire, and we're going to move it straight up. It's kind of hard sometimes to get a hold of that first wire just alone. That's all we're wanting there. And try to keep them both even there. Okay. Now move that upward. And then we're going to flip it over and do the same on the other side. Keeping your wires aligned. There's so many different designs that you can do. I'm going to show you, this is going to be a real easy way, but there are so many beautiful designs you can do once you get going with wire wrapping your stones. And you can wire wrap other cabochons as well. There's natural stone, there's a lot of beautiful glass cabochons, etc. Alright, so we have actually made our back now, and we have started our front portion here. And we're going to do the same on this one in the front and the back. So now you take your cabochon in here, kind of see how it looks. You can bend your front ones up a little bit because those are going to be wrapping over the dome portion of the cabochon, so we can go ahead and get everything fitted. It's probably the hardest part, is keeping all these wires aligned, fitting your cabochon, and kind of keeping it all in place at the same time until we have it all nice and secured. Mine is wanting to slide a little bit, so I'm going to reposition this wire a little firmer. There we go. So then I'm going to go ahead and position those just so they get that domed shape. And continue pushing that on down. It's going to slide up there. Let it get its cradle. Okay. Now with that, hopefully that'll fall back into place where I want it here in a few moments, or we will make it go down in there. You can manipulate this as you go. Okay. So now we're going to use the bottom here, again, using our tool. We're going to mark straight across here. And I want it to be kind of even, so we're going to go up, let's see, I'm going to go up about a ½ an inch. And then I'm going to mark a spot right here. And I will mark the other spot on the other side. And I'll look at that and see if I'm off. Looks like it's just a little bit. And this is where we're going to bend out and attach our wires to the other side. And we're going to do this on both the front and the back at the same time. On the back, we can use the front as our measurement. So again, with that wire, make sure they're all lined up. So you got your 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and your 2 in the center. Go up to where you have your mark, keeping it positioned in the center. We don't want to bend the whole wire out, but we are going to bend it out to line up. I'm going to do it kind of at an angle with our outside edge here. And do the same thing on the other side, kind of at an angle with the outside edge on that side. I went a little further there. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing on the back. So now we can see about where the other one's lined up, and we can bend it at about the same place there. Make sure your wires are untwisted at the tops so we can get that to bend. Again, lining your wires up. They're always wanting to go in there. They have a mind of their own sometimes. There we go. Keeping the two in the front and the two in the back. And just kind of match that up how you want that. I'll put our cabochon in here and see how that looks. And once I convince it to sit down in a cradle there, I think that'll look good. So what you're kind of doing is building a cradle for your cabochon. I put my flares up here, so I'm going to bend it back out a little bit more. Okay, so now we're going to want to line it up with the side so that we can wrap it right there. So we're going to go ahead and at that point of connection, we're going to go ahead and line this up with the side. And do the same on the front and the back at the same point. So that's going to be a connection right there that we're going to use our half round for. And then we're going to do about the same distance on the other side, which looks like about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to eyeball that. You can certainly measure it out if you want that exact. And do the same again on the back. Okay. So that's where we're going to make our next connection. So again, making sure that all of your wires stay even. So now at this point they are really wanting to overlap and kink up and have a mind of their own. So you can kind of bend that out a little bit more because we're going to reshape it here once we have the cabochon in. So you can separate that out. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to wrap these 4 together just like we did on the bottom. Now I'm using the 8-inch length, and we're probably not going to need all of that, but I do have that length available if I wanted to use it and wrap a little further. Sometimes having this is a decorative design on its own and wrapping on down. So I'm trying to find the flat edge here, and we're going to wrap the same number on each side. So we'll just go on down, and once I decide where I'm going to stop, then we'll count those and do the same number on the other side. You're making sure they don't overlap. And you can slide that until you actually mash it down with your wire strippers. You see where they're wanting to overlap there, so that's something you definitely keep watching. And I'm going to stop right there. I will stop those and put it in position where I want it, which is right on the edge. I'm going to take my wire strippers and mash that down so it securely holds everything in place. Once you do this, it really tightly holds everything into place very nicely. Let's see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wraps. So we'll do the same number on the other side. But first we're going to go ahead and do the same thing and crimp these off in the center of the wire there. Or cut those off. And then I'll mash that down again. Okay. And there we have one side complete. My excess wire out of the way in case I need it here momentarily. And then I will go ahead and take the other 8-inch. Actually, I probably used what I just had there, but we'll go ahead and take this other 8-inch wire. And we'll do 7 over here. And again, it doesn't really matter where I start because we can slide it until we crimp that down. So I'll start right here. Get our starting wire situated. Here we go. There's 1. This will be 2. Try to line that up as close as we can. 3, 4, and 5. And 6 and 7. I recount that, make sure I'm correct, and then I'll crimp all that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Make sure our wires are all lined up, and we're going to crimp that down. Now if you see here, I have one that's wanting to raise a little bit more, so I'm going to undo that now and see if I can fix that. There we go. And that's how you kind of fix something if it's not on there. You just rematch that down. There we go, all lined up. We're going to go in here and again crimp our inside wires in the center. And there we go, we've got both sides there and got our cradle. Now we're going to be positioning that and bending that a little bit for the cabochon to sit. Now I'm noticing my inside wire here, and this is a good thing to look at before you get too far. It's actually showing very much so up in the front here. Now when I get the cabochon in, it may not be so much, but I want to take care of that now. So I'm going to go in here and try to lift it up a little bit and clip it a little further back. A little more difficult to get into once you get to, so it's great to really cut that where you want it ahead of time, because this is very difficult to get in here after the fact, and especially without nicking anything. There we go. So I was able to pull that out some. And then I'll clip it and then put it back into place and mash it back down. There we go. Perfect. So now you don't see it as much as you would have if I had not taken the time to go ahead and do that. Now again, remember we have a dome. It looks like this is actually more the front than that because it's flattened out back there. So we will go ahead and lift our wire up a little bit to accommodate the doming of our cabochon. Both sides look so much alike. That was our goal. There we go. Let's go ahead and sit this in and start shaping. And then it's starting to come together. Let's continue shaping that around the stone. If your wires happen to slide, just push them back down where you connected. And then once you get it close to where you want it, just keep working with it. So the warmer the wires are with your hands, the more it easily bends for you. And again, this is half hard wire, so it's a little more difficult. So if you have a problem with your hands, you might want to use the dead soft. So we're getting closer and closer. Okay. Now, once you get, I'm going to hold it taut like this because it's a little bit springy with the half hard. Now we're going to go up here to the top of our point. And we're going to put our square nose pliers in, grab all the wires at that point or just a little bit above. You want to leave yourself a little bit of room because we're going to be putting those together with the other side. So if you notice here, we're giving ourselves, I'll show you about where, a little bit of room. So go up about just a hair above your point. And then you're going to bend that out, all four at the same time. And you're going to do the same thing at the same location on the other side. And then we're going to be attaching up here at that point. So now while you're holding those together like that, you've got everything in here like this. We are going to, and we're going to actually do a little bit more on the front and the back to this. It'll be really pretty. We're going to go ahead and take this 20 gauge half round wire. We had the 10-inch. And we're going to go ahead and start this. Now this part's important. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way upward. Don't go up to the top and work your way down. We're going to work our way upward. Keeping those all straight and lined up as you go. And put about 4 or 5 in there, wraps, and then stop. We're going to mash that down. And don't cut your tail. This long portion here, leave that. That's actually going to secure our bail for us. And we'll cut that piece later on. So here we are with the wire wrapped cabochon. The front and the back. Now on this top part, we don't want that to wiggle out, and we're going to add another decorative accent with that actually. So we're going to come up here where the top wire is, and we're going to grab our flat nose pliers. I have a smaller pair I'm going to use. I don't have as much of a space. It's not a large cabochon. And I'm going to come up to where the wire ends here, our little wrap. Now be careful not to scratch the cabochon, but grab a hold of that front wire. You might have to push the cabochon back a little bit so you don't nick that. Grab a hold of that front wire right there at the edge of your last wrap and bend in slightly. And then do the same on the other side. And that secures your top point. So you know that that part is not going to keep coming out on you. We're going to do the same on the back, so it's a little bit harder to push it in now that we've done the front. We go ahead and do the back as well. Sorry about that. I need to push this forward a little bit because I don't have the room to do much on the back. And if we can't get it here, it's obviously pretty secure, and our bail is going to secure it for us, but I'd like to show you that decorative accent. This is why I don't have any fingernails. And you don't want to break your cabochon either, but this is a pretty hard stone here. And it's always good to know the hardness of your stone. You can look that up on a Mohs hardness scale. There we go. We gotta get that in and do the same on the other side. There. Definitely wanted to show you that because it does secure the cabochon. Now we're going to push the front back just a little bit and do the same thing again a little bit further since we pushed it out. Okay. The cabochon is really beautifully secure. It's a very decorative wrap and simple to do. Now I'll show you what something we can do with the top wires here, and I'll go ahead and finish this out for you. I'm going to take 2 wires here and just give a decorative front to it. Just holding those wires up there, and we're just going to curve around. I don't want to take away from the cabochon, but we'll just go ahead and do this. Now on our other YouTube video I show doing this, I think I'm pulling from the back, but I show you do something similar to this with a woven accent. So you can always do that, but I want to show you just without the weave, a decorative accent that you can do. And then those wires, while you're holding the front, bring those around, and we're going to actually secure those to the back 2 wires here. So while that's there, we'll go ahead and cut. We always cut about 1/4 of an inch over. And lifting that wire back here a little bit. Again, I wonder I don't have any fingernails. We're going to go ahead and curve this. You can do both at the same time or single, but we're going to go ahead and curve these under that wire. And then just make sure that they're meeting up with one another and they're snug and secure so they don't come out. And you go underneath them and bring them together. And then they're fastened on the back. So you've got your decorative accent fully secured and fastened. At this point I'm going to go ahead and cut this tail off right here. And you can cut that to where it's not sticking out all the way to the side, but pretty close to the back. And at this point I cannot get my wire strippers in there, so I'm going to use that very delicately, the square pliers or flat nose pliers. And some people choose to glue that down and some people leave it, so it's however your preference is. Okay, I'll move that back out that way because we're going to be coming around with it. So now we have the wires up at the top, and then we're just going to do a regular bail. You can separate those wires out a little bit. I always try to do 2 on the side and 2 in the center. And once you got them kind of separated out, here's your 2 on the side. I'll move those more once we get the bail positioned. Kind of hold your decorative part, bring those to the front a little bit, so you're pushing them up like that. Take your bailing pliers, and again on the bail, on our other YouTube video, you can check it out, I do a woven bail. I'm going to use a larger portion here. So you'll have a few different ways watching our videos of how to now wrap, and I may show a few more wrapping techniques, and how to do a couple different bail styles and do your front either woven or just straight across. Now once I get the bail around like that, I always come in to make it a little bit easier to tie it down and come in a position right above the wrap there where we wrap that around, and then bend inward just like that. That gets your bail ready to be wrapped by this half round wire that we left out here. Then I smush it all together, kind of still keeping it at line 2, 2, and 2. And then I bring my half round wire back around, keeping it in line very taut. And we'll put that through the decoration there. Keep lining it one above the other. And do that at least 2 to 3 times. Now if your decoration is so high up that you need to come back and come up around and behind a decoration, you can certainly do that as well. Now to make sure that's tightened down really well, I'm going to go in here in between the decoration and the side and give that a good squeeze. That makes it really tight in there. And you see the front. And then the next thing I like to do is go in here, because as we finish this bail off, these wires up here may reposition, some higher than the other. So just go in there and just kind of get them all nice and even by pulling on those. And then we're going to go back here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this wire off. And again, we didn't need quite that much, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. And I always like to cut it off to where I can tuck this one. So your final wire you can tuck in then under or in your bail here. And again, you can also glue it if you'd like to do that, but by the time it's all crimped down, it's very secure in there. So I snug that up and then try to crimp it in. And I got a little bit too much left over there, so I will cut some of that. And tuck that in. Okay, once again, I want to pull and make sure that these are all even, and they're not. I pulled up on the one side more than the other. Here we go. Now on the back here, there's several different ways that you can finish it off, but one of the easiest ways is to, and I wanted to make this wrap here particular, a simple wrap, is to take your 2 top and foremost wires, and sometimes that's hard to find which ones those are, but it really doesn't matter, but I line them up 2, 2, and 2, and I just kind of do a little curve here like that with 2 wires and cut that. And that's where our graduated bailing pliers come in, because it keeps the little loop even on both sides, but it works quite well with the just chain nose pliers as well. You can even them up one at a time. And then I bring those up in a little loop behind the bail there. Now if you want it a little tighter, we can make it a little tighter as well. You can cut about halfway in there and make that tight also, and just keep getting a little tighter till you get it really snug and close. Right now I just want to go ahead and get you a good idea of how this is made, and then we can trim that up in a minute. Using the same ones. Coming up like that. If you do them side by side, all 6 of them, obviously it's going to come out into the front of the pendant. Go ahead and position them where they're lined up in the back, so then they stay in the back of the pendant. This one I want curved just a little bit more. And this one came out a little bit. So I'm going to clip the edge of that. Make sure when you're doing making jewelry, someone's typically going to wear the jewelry, so make sure all your ends are clipped and smoothed and not poking. That's part of the finishing work. Now on this last one here, I'm not going to continue to come up. I'm going to tuck this one down and under. So that one will be hidden. And just come about that far out. You can kind of play around with that a little bit. And I'm actually going to use a chain nose for this one because it gets snug under there a little bit easier. And just keep rolling that until that's underneath there, like that. And make sure that they're all tucked in. And there we go. Then on the front, again, we're going to check out our bail, make sure it's even. And then I like taking the 2 on the side, bringing that over, the 2 on the other side, and just a little bit in the center. And there we have our finished wire wrap pendant. Now to go through and smooth everything up, that's where the relieving block comes in, because everything's raised. So go through and look at any nicks you may have, and then just go ahead and file those out with that relieving block, or a fine grit sandpaper will work as well. The good thing about these is if you do happen to dull it, you can also use the buffing portion of it. That will come in and shine that up for you. But there we have a simple wire wrapped pendant. Please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to bring at least once a week a new YouTube video. We also have a site on Facebook called Jewelry Design and Techniques that we have live feed tutorial videos on throughout the week, and primarily on Sundays. We also have a website, www.doledesigns, and the Dole Designs Facebook page. And I'll post those links along with the Liz Burford, who made the cabochon, her link as well. Thank you so much for watching, and again, please like our channel and click that subscribe button to get notifications.